Chris Foulds. I'm Marty Hastings.
Hold on.
We got to do it again.
I made a mistake, which very rarely happens.
You're correcting me after your bungle job here? Unbelievable.
What's going on here? Yeah, that's called deflection. Yeah.
I'll grab the bear.
Oh boy.
I think Dave Eagles has inhabited the personage of Mike, and he's.
Okay, Bonnie.
We are live, but we are also on tape. We are deep down in the bowels of Lee's music, and I got to tell you, it's been a tough start this morning.
Very tough start, yes.
Mike Miltimore had a fight with his dad upstairs.
Talking about lug nuts on guitars or something like that.
Oh, come on, it was nuts on guitars and nut widths, and it was 1.5 millimeters we were arguing about.
Talking about his nut width,
whatever, it's nuts, and this is the fourth opening
intro
we've
we've had to do.
I know, it's affected my performance today. I'm sorry.
Okay, but let's go here. It's a good show. That's Earl Seitz. He's going to be our live guest today, and I know your first question is going to be about how he smells.
He smells great. He's got the greatest cologne this side of Hollywood.
He also dresses
immaculate,
unbelievable.
Impeccable. I was up in the where the press sit at the Blazers games. You cover it, and John Keane's in his little box studio there, and the radio guys are there, and you all look just sort of ramshackle, just like you're going to Costco on a Saturday with your sweatpants. Earl walks in like he come from Studio 54. Everything is perfect. He's got the tie. Everything is creased, and he walks like he owns the place because he
does own
like
the
he
place.
owns the place.
He's been there for 53 years in the press box. They should name it after him.
Absolutely. They should. The Earl Seitz press box.
It is a mixed bag today, though. I'm going to have a sad story about a head coach at South Kamloops. Her name's Rachael Lee. She passed away suddenly November 30th, so we're going to pay tribute to her today. And you are going to mix in some good news in your segment, Above the Folds?
Yeah, I thought, this has been a wretched year, of course. Last year was also wretched. Next year probably will be wretched. So it's good to stop and just realize that it's not all doom and gloom. I know if it bleeds, it leads, but sometimes there are good stories out there. In fact, your story on Rachael Lee, as tragic as it is, something blossoms out of that. That's quite hopeful, which we'll talk about later.
But before we do, let's do some doom and gloom talk about the coronavirus. So you seem to be pushing, judging by your tweets, a little bit in a different direction with the way you're feeling about the Omicron?
Yeah, I mean, none of us are epidemiologists or virologists or doctors, but from reading a lot about it, from looking at the comments of the South African doctors, in particular Coatsy, the one who discovered the variant, and it's early and everything is shifting, we get that. But I think a lot of people are panicking too fast. They got to stop, they got to breathe. What we know so far about the Omicron is that, it has a 3.5 rate of infection, which is high, but so it's highly transmissible. But so far, and it's early, granted it's early, but so far, the vast majority of cases are mild. It's like the symptoms are like a cold. You get a sore throat, cough, runny nose, and then it runs its course in people who are vaccinated and don't have underlying health conditions. That doesn't mean we have to just throw our masks off and start running around, but I don't think we should start panicking, and I think everybody's panicking. We were talking earlier, they might have to shut down the sports leagues, and now today on the 15th of December, as we're filming this, the governments are talking about travel restrictions, and I think they just relax, because this could be, in all seriousness, this could be a good thing. If this variant, and I predict it is much milder, this could be running into the end of the pandemic. Hopefully, it's the 5th wave, but it might be a shallow wave. Spanish flu lasted officially for 2.5 years, probably 4 years from the time it first started and ended. So about 3 or 4 years, like this one. The Spanish flu is still with us. That virus just mutated into a very milder virus that we know today as the common flu. So that virus is still alive. It's in its best interest to stay alive by getting weaker. Anyway, that's my rant there. I don't think it's going to be like a Delta on steroids. I really don't.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sick and tired of talking about it. Let's move on and let's hear from this guy right here, Herman Hothi at New Leaf Produce Market, because without him and without New Leaf, this show doesn't happen. Check out this commercial right here.
Well, honey, It's time for the holidays at New Leaf Produce Market, and you know what that means, don't you? Because I do. The New Leaf Produce Market Holiday Stocking Stuffer Fly, which means things like honey, right, honey? $6.98, and then you've got the hot chocolate bombs. Where are they? Right here. Oh, sorry, Hermos. That's why you should have worn a shirt, buddy. The hot chocolate bombs are $8, and look at his nephew back there shoveling. Workman-like. He knows what he's doing, and so does Herman. So does New Leaf Produce Market. Get that holiday stocking stuffer flyer and come on down while supplies still last.
Forgot to talk about the Holiday Bear Contest.
Yes, you can win that bear, and perhaps even some 5-foot bears still. Just go pick up a copy of Kamloops This Week newspaper, or go to KLWweek.com, and it has all the information on how to win those bears for the Christmas season.
Before we get to the meat of the show, I like my meat to be refrigerated. And you know who can do that for you? Cold Control Mechanical, okay? We've been teasing this commercial for a long time. I went out to Red Tomato Pies. What's your early reviews there?
Probably the best pizza I've had since back in the day at Ocean Park in the Lower Mainland. It's fantastic. It's
lined up around the corner.
Lined up around the corner. They didn't take any phone calls at that time because they were so busy. It's not. It's not.
This advertising spiel is supposed to be about Cold Control.
It's not.
Mechanical,
but it's not the
too.
number of pieces. It's what's on those pieces. It's amazing. But yeah, these guys
are the reason that pizza is so good. One of the reasons, because they built the walk-in cooler. They take care of the oven. They're up on the roof doing gas fitting. So it's a one-stop shop. Dustin and Vinny, my guys, just beautiful guys. Nice, salt of the earth guys. They have a good time. You watch the commercial?
They're as cold as ice. They're willing to sacrifice their love of labor for you. Don't be a foreigner. Be their friend. Call them today.
And watch this commercial right here.
There's other people in the same business, so what makes you guys stand out?
We're cold as ice. We're primarily refrigeration contractors servicing the commercial market, heating, cooling, commercial refrigeration, gas fitting, kind of a one-stop shop.
Well, when you call Cold Control Mechanical, you're getting a personalized feel. You know you're going to get 2 qualified technicians. We both have our tickets. Who you call and talk to is usually who's going to show up at the door. So
if we can find a solution to your problem, we will.
You know, we're both ambitious guys, and we like to get after it. And
I mean more like the jobs you guys have completed with Cold Control, like who you're...
Oh, is that what you mean? Okay, we'll leave that out, eh?
Yeah, leave that out.
Yeah, I was like, that's an odd one. It's okay.
I don't know what you'll edit it and sub it. I don't know.
You're on fire today, Chris. I'm just going to say.
He didn't even back in today. That right there is Rachael Lee. Last week I went to the Fulton Cup press conference, as I do every year. Normally it's kind of a, I don't want to say run-of-the-mill, but it's fairly similar every year. It's really cool. They bring in high school students from all over the place. It's a city high school basketball championship. You get Barrier playing South Cam. You've got your underdog story. There's always some kind of angle that we go with. I didn't know what I was going to do this year. I was probably going to focus on the fact that they didn't have a tournament last year and they're playing again, and hey, basketball's back. The second interview that I did, 4 South Cam girls came out of the Wolf's Den, and I just asked them, what makes this tournament special to you? And they looked at each other, and they just started talking about Rachael Lee, who was their head coach, who passed away suddenly, medical event while driving. And just like that, she just
2
turned
weeks
30.
ago, just November 30th.
November 30th,
Yep.
yeah. She just turned 30, so they started talking about what she meant to the team and the impact she's had on the program, and her authenticity, and how she would give her time outside of the game, whether it be doing makeup for them before graduation or going to their women's league games after they're graduated, like a year after they graduate. Very sad. Before I was going to do a story, obviously I want to contact the family. I'm not just going to splash that on the page that this young lady had passed away. So I called the mom, Patty Lee, spoke to her. I spoke to Del Komarniski, who Rachael coached with as an assistant coach. They won 2 provincial championships together.
She succeeded him as coach.
She succeeded him as head coach. Mm-hmm. And I also talked to Jessica Wallace, who was at that press conference.
Fulton and Company.
Representing Fulton and Company. Yep. And here's some of those clips right now.
She was passionate about everything she did. Basketball was number one. Loved to coach. Loved to see the potential in each and every one of her players. And I think they felt that. I think her passion for it rubbed off on them. A person that helped where help was needed, had that aura about her where she'd walk into a room and smile, and everybody just felt better and confident and knew that they were safe in her presence and taken care of. And after reading some of the heartwarming things that people from every aspect of her life wrote on her Facebook page, it was clear that everybody else felt the same way that we did.
You received the information, and it was surreal. I was numb, and so I can't say I received it very well. It wasn't anything anyone could prepare for, and certainly I wasn't prepared for it. With regards to the kids, they were shocked too, and their context isn't as great as an adult, so this is a very brutal event for them to try and cope with. The magnitude of losing their coach, which they just practiced for the day before, was not an easy thing for them to do. They were very emotional. This was a loss that had a profound impact on a lot of kids at our school, and adults for that matter.
It's a huge loss for our community. She was a friend of mine. I've spoken to her family. I had just talked to her. I had hoped to see her at the tournament this year. I was looking forward to catching up with her, so we're really going to miss her. She was a big part. Her dad was my coach when I was a kid, and she was at my practices as a little kid.
No way. Yeah. Who's her dad?
Jerry Lee.
Jerry Lee.
So I remember her and her little brother running around
Yeah, that's sad.
Mentors. Did you have a mentor that was kind of went over and above with you throughout your career or in sports or anything like that?
Yeah, a few editors here and there. In sports, not much. Teachers. I have 2 or 3 teachers in mind that I'll never forget because they helped me with a lot of things, and I just remember your good teachers. I've never lost a mentor like these kids have lost their mentor, and it's even more amplified the fact that she was so young, and the fact that she wasn't a teacher. She's a community coach. So this is a pure 100% volunteerism,
right?
Which is impressive, and you can tell the kids, the impact on the kids. It's massive.
Yeah, and I love the point that Del made. As an adult, you have kind of these experiences to go on. You've maybe experienced loss before. These kids, it's their first brush with death. For a lot of them, they haven't experienced this before.
And it's sudden. It's not like, oh, someone's sick and then they go visit them in the hospice. This is out of the blue, right?
No, they're practicing together the night before. They're laughing. They're having a good time, and the next morning she's gone. I guess it's nice to have a team to go through that with, but still incredibly hard for anyone who hasn't gone through that before. You're 16, 17 years old. So I thought it was brave of Morgan Androlic and Kendra Kutzer to talk to me like they did.
It's our first game without our coach, I guess. So it's kind of a good dedication to her to get the season off to a good start.
Obviously, she's just such an amazing lady, and I've played senior since grade 9. She already taught me for 3 years, and she has just taught me so much, and she already taught so much to these other girls. So she was so intelligent, such an amazing person that we're really going to miss her this year. Bringing our whole team together, and we're going to support each other, and we're just going to play for her this year. So
the team unity has built up so much, and I feel like we trust each other so much more on and off the court, and we've just become more unified as a whole.
Any mentor stories from you, Mike?
Yeah, I've got a couple mentors growing up. Of course, I grew up in the family music store, so my dad is probably my biggest influence on my life. He's electronics technician, guitar tech, ran the music store, did sound for concerts all growing up, so I just wanted to be just like him, so I went to college for electronics. But I got introduced when I was 16 to a guy named Hartley Peavy, who was at the time running $1 billion a year company. And he kind of, I started to talk to him. He phoned me on my 16th birthday, which was really cool. And when I started my guitar company, I started emailing him just short little one-question emails, and he would respond with multiple pages of why I should patent or should not. And he's been a real mentor and a guiding light for me, which has been amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy the little things that you remember that help you along your way, and it's sad to think that these girls won't have that in Rachael anymore, and they'll carry on her spirit this year at the tournament. They said they're going to play for her.
Right back to where she was working at the A&W. There was a young person that somebody had been yelling at him, and she went to the supervisor and made sure that the workplace was safe for everybody and comfortable for everybody. She was very much that way, that she stood up for everybody and made sure nobody was bullied. Very proud of her, because no matter what she tackled, she excelled in everything that she did. She was just one of those people that gave freely of herself. One of a kind in our eyes.
Well, you sent me a photo that's a little blurry, so that's unfortunate by you. Strike one.
Yeah.
But let's talk about good news.
I get this off our website rather than from our file. Anyway, yeah, we talked earlier about there's a lot of bad news, hard news, doom and gloom, and anywhere you look, pick up the paper, look online. So let's just talk about a few good things happening. There's a lot of good stuff happening in the world. You just got to look for it sometimes. And just get off the social media feeds. That helps a lot too. This is one of them. This is a group of about, I think, a dozen people who were camped out at the Gateway City Church in Valley View. December 10th during the annual Camp Out to End Youth Homelessness, an annual event that raises money for Away Home Kamloops, which is a organization founded by the late Catherine McParland. She died a year ago this month, suddenly. They raise money to get kids off the street and into homes, and they've established some home safe suites in town. They're doing a really good job. This is one group. There was another group from Urban Systems. They camped out on the top of Mount Todd at Sun Peaks. And there's people all over the place. I know a lot of people who are camping out in their backyards by themselves with people. And they raise money through donations. They've raised, as of December 16th, more than $100,000. Last year they raised $150,000. And all this money goes to help get the kids off the street. So this is a good news story that we should sort of proclaim more.
Yeah, there's people like that all over the place too. I'm always jealous of these people who spend so much time helping other people.
It's like they're do-gooders, eh?
This is a personal story, but I had a birthday last week, and my friend Darcy, I
was there.
John Keane actually ruined the surprise birthday party.
Keane ruined it, but we were waiting for you.
Surprise birthday party. John Keane blew it, so did Bill O'Donovan. But anyway, it was set up by my friend Darcy Pinio. That's the third time she's thrown me a surprise birthday. She knows it's been a tough year for me. She goes out of her way to do this nice thing for me. It's just like, these people are special people, they think about other people first.
She contacted a lot of your friends, some like me, who I hardly know her, and asked to send little stories. And not only did we send her the stories, she transcribed them, handwritten, printed some off, made this really cool little scrapbook. And we all told stories about Marty. She wrote about you. I don't know what she said, but Marty was sitting next to me and brought a tear to your eye, literally. So that's a great person.
Yeah, I did a big Instagram post, emotional post the next morning to thank her, but I'll thank her again here. And she should do a booklet about Earl Seitz's life. We're going to have to get the Coles notes when we talk to Earl Seitz in our next segment, which is this week. How many years in the business and how many years here in Kamloops?
Well, when the day I leave, it will be 53 years, 5 months, and 14 days. Do you want it down to the millisecond?
No, I think that's
fine?
That's good.
Okay. And Kamloops approaching 48 years by the time I leave. February 11th, 1974 was when I started at Broadcast Center.
And why now? Why are you stepping away?
Well, age is one thing. I'm 73 now, and when I leave, I'll be very close to 74. I've lost passion, and once you lose passion for something, I think it's time to move on. And that passion has been dwindling over the last few years. I can't really say why. I guess age and maybe longevity has something to do with it. And to be honest with you, Marty, I can't keep up with the young guys like you anymore.
I doubt that.
It's time to move on.
Well, what's it like to be at this stage where people are asking you to do these types of things, to look back on your career and your life?
It's flattering, that's for sure. I'm honored to do it. I don't know if what I've done is that important, really, in the big scheme of things, but I appreciate it, and it's, like I said, it's very flattering.
Chris?
Before you came to Kamloops in 74, sorry, my thing fell there. Where were you before that? And who were some of the sportscasters that you looked up to, that some of us will remember, getting into the business?
Okay. Well, I started out in Cranbrook in 1968, and then I went to, I was in Creston for a short time, and then I was in Nelson for about 4 years before I came here. And some of the guys, I guess, the one guy that I really looked up to, and I don't know if you guys will remember this guy or not, Danny Gallivan.
Danny Gallivan, that's right.
Voice of the Montreal Canadiens.
Savardians, the Spinorama.
The Savardian Spinorama and a number of other things.
Yes.
Cannonading shot. Years later, after he retired, I was honored to be able to meet him. He came here for a sportsman's banquet, so that was something very special for me.
Is there a favorite interview or a favorite story that you've done? Is there one that really stands out in your mind?
I can't say there is any one particular story I've done that really stands out. Highlights certainly a combination of a number of stories there over the years. The 3 Blazer Memorial Cup wins, I was there for all 3
What
of
was
them.
it like in the city at that time?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody was on the bandwagon, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've ever really left. When people talk to me about anything related to sports, I'd say about 95% of it is Blazers.
Mm-hmm. You didn't actually, like, you weren't an athlete growing up, right? I mean, I've seen it on his Facebook. He's posted about it before.
Okay, in school, remember when, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember this, but in school they used to pick teams,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they have designate a guy to pick.
Yeah.
I was usually the last guy picked.
You and Foulds would probably share that.
That kind of tells you what kind of an athlete I was.
I was on the bench. I was a team manager. I was carrying the water to the guys like Marty who were bullying people in the bathrooms.
It's crazy though that your career is in sports. I mean, how does that work out like that?
Well, because I had an interest, always had an interest in it, for sure. As a young guy, I remember listening to hockey broadcasts on the radio, and then TV came along and watching the hockey games, the football games, and baseball games, everything else. Always had an interest in that. And so I decided, maybe that's something I'd really like to do. And so I was fortunate to be able to get into it.
We've been in some pretty fun and interesting press conferences together, scrums after the game. I was thinking about head coaches that you've dealt with. Is there one that was particularly challenging or made you stay on your toes when you were dealing with them?
Oh, let me think back, because there have been a lot of coaches that you had to really think about.
Because
that
some
one.
head coaches, if you're not prepared, they're going to pounce on you for a bad question. Like I don't know, Hazer stands out for me a little bit. If you ask a stupid question, he'll pounce on you. But
yes, he would stand out certainly. One guy I remember, and you know what, I can't think of his name now. He didn't coach here; he was coaching another team. And it was after a game that they had lost to the Blazers, and I went to interview him. And I said to him, before we started the interview, I said, hi, how you doing? He says, how do you think I'm doing?
Yeah.
I said, oh, sorry, I just ask. He says, well, don't ask.
Old school, eh?
Yeah. Old school guy. Yeah, that was years ago. That was probably about 30, 35 years ago.
How has the industry changed in good or bad ways for you, from your perspective, even going back 10 or 20 years?
Well, first of all, I think the industry has definitely changed.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, it has changed for the good, definitely. However, I am a traditionalist, so change has not come easy for me. Mm-hmm. I understand that there has to be change. I mean, there has to be progress, and progress comes with change. And so there have been a lot of changes, technical changes, the way sports is presented now. As you well know, Marty, in the newspaper business, it's much different than what it once was. And the same applies to the radio and the television business, same thing.
Right.
You don't find on traditional stations like ours, I can only speak for myself at our station, sports on radio doesn't carry the high profile that it once did, which I understand. I mean, there are a lot of things out there now. There are a lot of specialty channels like TSN, Sportsnet. There are a lot of podcasts. Podcast is the big thing.
It is a big thing, yeah.
Where things have gone online now. Yeah. And there are podcasts. There are webcasts like this one we're doing here right now.
Yeah.
But it's sad though, because we see we've talked about this on the show, the loss of sports talk radio. Remember Dan Russell was the go-to 9 o'clock till after the Blazers
That's sprouting up
games.
in different forms now.
It is
podcast.
It is,
podcast
but the tough thing for people, maybe for the younger, it's easy. It's so fragmented. You got to go and find it. Whereas before, you just knew. Turn on CKNW there or NL. There's Dan Russell.
Exactly.
You turn on the radio and you hear, okay, here's the noon sportscast. It's there's more, but it seems like it's just harder to find, and it's so fragmented, which is good for the whole the whole spectrum. But as an older guy, I'm a traditionalist like you, traditionalist. I would prefer just to turn on the radio and know that my 2-hour talk show is going to be there. But I get it; it's about economics and progress and all that.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I mean, I always tuned into Dan Russell and listened because it was entertaining.
Yeah, it was.
Sometimes very controversial.
Yeah.
And I miss that. And now, I guess now you can, if you want to get that, you can go online and you can find it. And usually you don't necessarily have to be there live to listen to it. You can find it
on
later.
demand.
You can find it later.
Yeah.
It's on demand.
You talk about losing the passion and maybe feeling like it's time, but how much are you going to miss this? And this has been your life for 50 odd years. I mean, how much are you going to miss it? Are you ready to move on?
Come back in 6 months and ask me that question. Yeah, I'm ready to move on. Oh, for sure. Or I wouldn't be pulling the plug. But I'm ready to say, okay, this has been a really, really good career. I've really enjoyed it. I've done things I never ever dreamt would be possible to do. I've covered events I never thought would be possible to do. I've covered individuals I never thought would be possible. It's been extremely rewarding. And right now, it's tough for me to say how much I'm going to miss it because, as I said, I have lost a lot of that passion now. So I guess we'll find out 6 years or a year down the road.
When's your last day?
December 31st.
Okay, so we're 2 weeks away from your retirement. You're going to have all this time in your hands. What's your plans generally?
Day by day.
Yeah.
I really, there are no plans
Do you
at
have
all.
any
I have
passionate
nothing.
hobbies you're going to get into? Or
No,
are you
we're
gonna...
getting into fashion maybe. We're
Yeah.
talking about your fashion. Okay? There's nobody better dressed than Earl Seitz, okay?
This is
Where
another
does your fashion come
traditionalist thing. I hope Chad Clausen dresses half as good as you because
he
there'll be
does.
trouble if he doesn't.
Much better. He dresses much better.
No.
I don't know. I guess from the TV thing, having to be on TV and having to try and look decent, I suppose.
What about the cologne, okay? Earl, Chris was telling me, okay, Chris, you don't know how many times he's asked me, what kind of cologne does Earl wear?
I don't want to know because I want to keep it a mystique.
No, come on.
But,
you gotta do you have it? What's your cologne?
Old Spice.
Old Spice
has been for about 60 years. Old Spice.
Well, you must wear some in some weird way because it smells like it's more like an upper echelon.
You know,
Old Spice.
I don't know if you ever looked at an Old Spice bottle or the box that Old Spice comes in. If you look, there's a little line on there that says, "If your grandfather didn't wear this, you wouldn't be here." That's true. It's on there. Take a look.
Gotta check that out. Right on. That's great.
Any kind of final thoughts, Earl, when you look back on your career? Anything you want to share with us?
It's been an incredible career. When I got into this business in 1968, I never ever thought about when I was going to come to an end. I was only 20 years old, so you don't think about those things. What I've been able to do in the 53 plus years has, again, like I said, I never ever dreamt this would ever be possible to do what I've been able to do. It's been it's been such a fulfilling career that I can't imagine having ever done anything else. But I guess I'm going to find out now that I have to do something else as I move on.
Well, it's all grace and class, and you've been around long enough, even I have, to see people in this business go out the wrong way, hang on too long when they're not meant to be here anymore. And so kudos to you, and also for just being a friendly guy. Even when I first got into the business, I have nothing but great things to say about you. So thanks for coming on the show and being with us today.
Thank you. And I just want to say, and when you say that, some people don't get to go out the way I'm going out, and I have to. I want to thank my employer, Broadcast Center, for allowing me to go out on my own terms.
You haven't mentioned your family as well. In your Facebook post, you thanked them as well. Anything else you wanted to add about your family?
Oh, I have to thank my family, that's for sure, because they put up, there have been a lot of missed birthdays, a lot of missed Christmases, a lot of missed holidays, a lot of other things, a lot of things that other maybe young people growing up get to do that my family didn't get to do because I was away covering a Memorial Cup or a Brier or whatever, and I wasn't here to do that. So I really have to thank them.
Well, I got time to make it all up there. There you go.
I guess. I hope so.
Yep.
I hope there's lots of time.
Oh, I think there will be.
I'd love another 30 years.
You started been in the business the year I was born, which is interesting.
Oh.
So I would, if I can do what you've done for another 20 years, I'll be lucky.
Well, I'm sure you'll be able to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You guys are too good not to do it.
Let's see.
That's why I have to get out of it now, because I can't keep up with you guys.
Maybe if Old Spice sponsors us, too, we could be here forever.
That's right. You always need that. Yes.
Thank you, Earl.
Okay, thanks very much for having me on.
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
Well, I also got to work. I got to get Shandy's off on. I got to get him doing the story. Okay, yes.
Let's wrap the Earl Seitz interview. Just your thoughts on Earl.
Earl, he's a legend. He is a legend. Those in Kamloops know he's a legend. He's been around. He's been on the TV. He's been part of the sports scene here for a very, very long time. And when I first moved here in 2005, which is now, holy cow, 15, 16 years ago, I wouldn't go to bed until I watched the highlights of the Blazers or the sports on CFJC, and Earl was always there giving the sports, 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And he's just a presence. Like we were saying earlier today, when we go up to the press box, he was always the guy who kind of, everything's in black and white, he's in color, because he's just the professional. He's the guy who dresses well, and he takes his job seriously.
Yeah, and I just think the way he's gone out, it's exactly how you do it. You know, he felt that his time is up, and he's leaving, and instead of just hanging on and not letting other people, the new generation, come up.
You know, that's a good point, because that was a good question. That was a good answer. He was honest. He's like, I lost the passion. Yeah. Sometimes you lose the passion. Yeah. There's been other high-profile retirements in town that weren't really retirements, and at least he's going out on his own terms, which is, I liked his honesty there. Yeah, sometimes you do lose the passion.
Let's catch up on the news with the Last Week Clique.
Just finished up a marathon city council meeting during which council discussed a notice of motion by Councillor Denis Walsh to have staff look into a wellness center out in Rayleigh. And that was defeated, but it elicited quite a bit of discussion from city council, and you can expect one story on that from me tomorrow. Other stories, I guess if you're watching the show today, it's actually today. So the other stories that are percolating on my desk this week, again from the city council, they were in meetings all day long on Tuesday. They also discussed parking. A consultant that was hired by the city back started work in 2020 looking into parking has said that the city has sufficient parking in the Trunk-Hill corridor in downtown right now, but looking ahead as development goes on, there is going to be a parking issue. Specifically, they're talking about yesterday on Tuesday morning about the the surface parking lots that could see a loss of some 500 plus parking spaces once those lots are developed. They might be, parking that's now where the Hive might be in the future, or parking where Kamloops Centre of the Arts might be, or could potentially be pending some kind of vote in the future. So stay tuned for that. The biggest story, though, this week, TNRD is meeting on Thursday, and they're finally, months later, I think 7-8 months after it started in May of this year, following our stories on spending at the TNRD, an audit report is going to be presented to the board. We're going to hear what happened, at the regional district. Sources have told me that it may go back even further than they had initially anticipated, 5 years, similar to what we looked at with the expenses and the spending on Gil's credit card. It might go back quite a bit further. We're going to see probably that it cost quite a bit more, maybe potentially more than they had anticipated, and we're going to hear findings and recommendations. So check out our stories this week, and we're all going to need a vacation soon.
Hey guys, what's going on? Mike here, coming to you for the Last Week Clique. So today in the paper I have a story. We were talking with Trans Mountain. I got an interview with their Chief Operating Officer, Michael Davies, to talk about the flooding impacts from last month's unprecedented rainstorm that washed out their pipeline and washed out large portions of the roads. Some substantial damage that they sustained to the pipeline, and they're still working on remediating some areas. Surprisingly, the 68-year-old pipeline, despite being washed out in 14 different areas, it didn't really sustain too much damage, aside from one part in Juliet Creek, and there were 0 ruptures, no breaches of the line, so holding up strong. And crews right now are pretty much, that's their one focus right now, is getting all the repairs made, all the floodwater diverted, and the pipeline back to full capacity. It's running at about 80% right now, with reduced pressure through the Merritt and Coquihalla Summit areas where most of the damage occurred. So they expect that to be done by the end of January. Another thing I wanted to touch on from this past week, I was part of a championship winning team. KTW won the Mustard Seeds second annual turkey toss competition, and I believe that despite the big win and everything, we were all very humble and gracious in our victory.
Do the NHL 94 thing. There we go.
It was a great time and raised money for a great cause. So that is all for me for now. Back to you guys in the studio.
Chris, any thoughts? Jessica had a bunch of things there. You want to touch on any of that?
A lot of stuff. Well, they had a long discussion. It was a good discussion at City Council about Councillor Denis Walsh's notice of motion that he thought council should look into building a treatment center for those with addiction and mental health issues in some rural area of town to get them away from the temptations and the hustle and bustle of life in the core. There's a lot of debate on it. Some councillors really didn't like that idea. They didn't like the wording, to which I say, well, forget the wording, where's the action? I liked his idea. I thought it was compassionate, not stigmatizing, but that's just me. I wrote about it in a column today. I think ultimately, I think the conversation was good. It was a good debate. It was a 5-4 vote, so it wasn't unanimous to shoot it down. But there'll still be work on that. Another big story that she was talking about was the TNRD audit is out tomorrow on the 16th, and it's a forensic audit into spending at the TNRD that is a direct result of Jessica Wallace's stories in KTW that also resulted in a criminal investigation that's ongoing. So that's coming out tomorrow. We're going to have it. And another big story that I thought was interesting was the city giving a development permit to the largest residential development in the history of Kamloops.
It'll change the skyline.
It'll change everything downtown from 4th to 5th Avenues, from Battle Street to Nicola. Kelson Group is building 525 units, 2 high-rises, I think 4 low-rises, a park in there. It's a 6-year build-out, starts next spring. It's going to be big.
I think another big story is Michael Potestio's ego, just getting out of control. He's starting to be so casual in the way he's talking to us.
Pretty casual there, wasn't it?
In his segments, and just some insider trading too. He actually runs this kind of media club that meets once a week. Socialite King himself, Michael Potestio, rules with an iron fist. Colton Davies texted me a couple nights ago. He's like, now that I'm moving into the TNRD, is Michael going to let me into the club? I don't know.
I wouldn't let Colton in. He's gone to the dark side, man. No, you're not in, man.
Michael's ego, he's just, the way he's throwing it back to the studio now, he's starting to really, it's too big for his britches, I think. We've got to bring him down a notch.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, final thoughts on the show while I get Herman out. Floor is yours, Chris, to talk about the show.
It's a good pre-Christmas show. We got a little bit of heavy, sad stories. We had some good, positive stories, and of course, Earl made it. Always having a live guest is good, and Earl was good. We have a legend in studio. It was a good get, as they say in the business.
Thanks to New Leaf Produce Market, to Coal Control Mechanical, to Mike and Bonnie once again smashing the buttons and making us look good, to Scott Finley and the Grand Ones. That's it for today. We'll see you last week.